And here to speak about why the Greens oppose the bill is Senator Larissa Waters. Please make Senator Larissa Waters welcome.
Thank you so much, Mark. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are on First Nations land here in Meanjin, also known as Brisbane, and it's the unceded land of the Turrbal and Yagara people. And this is, and it was, and it will always be Aboriginal land. And I do so hope that after the extremely disappointing and damaging setback of the Voice result, that we can still keep working towards truth-telling and treaty-making, and ultimately a voice as well, because our country deserves that, and that's how we heal, and that's true reconciliation going forwards. Thank you all for coming out in what is a very, very cold day for people who live here, and this really shows the strength of sentiment. I'm sort of pinching myself that we're in this situation. I've been in Parliament for quite a few years now, and we fought against offshore detention. We fought against that cruel Operation Sovereign Borders, where no one could tell anyone how cruel we were being to people who were seeking asylum on our shores. We fought against the children overboard nonsense, which was of course revealed to be nonsense. And I really had hoped and believed that when there was a change of government, that we'd see a significant change of policy, and that we could start to actually embrace people who were seeking asylum and who wanted to become wonderful members of our society and our community. And I've been extremely gobsmacked and really heartbroken to see what this government has delivered us. This bill, which they've proposed and which they initially tried to ram through the House, and they rammed it through in 2 hours, and they then tried to ram it through a Senate inquiry that again they scheduled for 2 hours the night after. Thankfully, we were then able to pause it and say, this is outrageous, you need a proper process here to scrutinise this bill. And when, in the process of doing so, we found that every single submitter, except the department themselves, said that this bill was, well, they didn't use the words racist, I'll use those words, this is a racist bill, but those submitters said this bill trashes our international human rights obligations. This is in breach of the Refugee Convention, this is in breach of other human rights conventions that Australia says that we will uphold. Now, on investigating this bill, it's not at all what I would expect from this government, and in fact it's worse than what we saw under the Morrison regime. There's 3 elements to this bill which Terry took us through really beautifully, and I'll just do a quick recap. The first one is a Trump-style travel ban, which says that if you're on a list of countries, you simply won't be able to get any visa to come here to Australia to visit your family who might be here. Now that sounds terrible, but they won't even tell us what countries are on that list. And we asked in estimates, where's the list? And they said, oh, we don't have it with us. And then they came back 5 minutes later and said, oh no, there isn't a list. So there is an absolute lack of certainty about about who this bill would apply to and the draconian implications it would have for family members wishing to visit. Now, the second part of this bill is really, really sneaky, because the High Court has said that indefinite detention is illegal because it is, and because it is against human rights obligations. And so this government has sought to find a backdoor way to reintroduce indefinite detention. And the way they've done it is they've said if you're on a bridging visa of a number of different subcategories, the minister can order you to do a thing. And that thing might be, come and have a meeting with us 200 kilometres away, and you have to be on time, and if you miss the appointment, mandatory sentence of at least 1 year, no more than 5 years. That thing that they could ask you to do might also be apply for a passport so that we can remove you to your country from whence you fled because you were not safe there. And again, if you refuse to do that, the minister must, it is a mandatory sentencing, the minister must impose a 1-year sentence upon you, and it can be as much as 5 years. This is the government and the political party that said that they didn't support mandatory sentencing. And we know that mandatory sentencing is terrible because it's a real, it infringes on judicial independence, it's against the rules of law. And so we've got a bill that trashes human rights obligations and puts those fundamental principles of law in the bin. But it doesn't stop there. The third reason, the third limb to this bill is that it says the minister themselves can overturn a refugee status declaration. Now that is gobsmacking power for any one human being to have, let alone a minister who is simply appointed by their own political party to do the job. We don't get to vote on who should be the Immigration Minister or the Home Affairs Minister. Sure, we choose the party of government, but they decide amongst themselves who the minister is. And to give that person unfettered power to overturn refugee status simply boggles my mind. So this is a bill that is worse than anything we saw from the Liberal government, and I can't believe I'm even saying those words, totally unexpected. They've tried to rush it through. As I said before, we've been able to slow that process down and insist upon a Senate inquiry that's fulsome and that really revealed this bill is friendless, it's discriminatory, it's racist, and it's extremely damaging. It could rip families apart, and it could see, for example, a mum and her kids who have fled from Iran due to legitimate fears of persecution, it could see them sent back. Now, that's not the Australia that I thought we lived in, and that's certainly not the government that I thought we elected to change direction and to have a bit more compassion and some humanity in our policy making. I do take some heart though, because we've got the list now of what legislation is on for the Senate this coming week. We sit again starting on Monday, and this bill is not on the list for this coming week. Now, I am hopeful that that is because all of you and all of your friends and all of your colleagues and anyone in this country with a heart who demands better, I'm hopeful the reason they haven't listed it is because you've already been reaching out to the Labor government, to your local rep, to the Minister Andrew Giles, to the Prime Minister, and saying to them, this bill is unforgivable. You must not proceed with this. You must drop this bill. This is un-Australian. It is discriminatory. It is racist. We will not vote for you if you proceed with this bill. I'm hopeful that you've already done that, and if you haven't, you've still got some time because the bill's not listed for this week. And as you know, the Greens are in the balance of power in the Senate, and that means the government needs us to pass their laws or it needs the Liberals. And this bill, we actually don't know where the Liberals are going to go because they think that this bill is both too weak and too strong. They've said they don't like the fact that the countries aren't listed, so we don't know the effect of that travel ban. Now, we agree that that's ridiculous to have this level of uncertainty. But they've also said it doesn't go far enough because they want temporary protection visas reintroduced to put people in a permanent state of limbo and put that permanent residency and citizenship even further on the back burner. So we're not sure whether or not the government has the Liberals on this bill. If they do, I'm afraid there's nothing we can do to stop it. We will throw everything we've got to slow it down, but the numbers will be there to pass it. If for some reason the Liberals don't support this bill because it's not bad enough for them, it's not racist enough, it's not damaging enough, or they don't want the Labor Party to get credit in the community for being tough on refugees, then the Greens will be in the balance of power, and I'm guaranteeing to you that we will use everything we've got, every parliamentary trick in the book, to slow down this bill and to stop it from coming on altogether. Now, we've got ways and means of doing that because they do need our votes on various other things. So my commitment to all of you today is that we will do everything we can to stop this bill, to stop it coming on, and if it does come on, to stop it passing. But it's really up to you to show the government that this is not what you want from the Australian government. This is not the direction you think we should be going in. So please join us and send that strong message because we've stopped it being listed for this week, and I'm really hopeful that they are getting the message that this is really bad politics for them. Unfortunately, it seems that the fact that this is damaging isn't enough. We have to explain how this will be politically damaging and painful for the Labor Party if they proceed. And we do have a problem with structural racism in this country, as I'm sure you know, and I fear that the whole reason the Labor Party has come up with this bill is because rather than doing the things they said they were going to do in their election campaign, they're now trying to appeal to Liberal voters in order to shore up their own re-election. And they think the way to popularity and the way to re-election is to get more and more like Peter Dutton's Liberals. And it is getting harder to tell the difference between the two of them on this policy and on a number of others, which is really, really awful. And we shouldn't be in this predicament. And people deserve choice in a democracy. Well, the choice that we're giving you is that we will be standing with you and we will fight against this bill, and we will always speak out for human rights and for fundamental decency and for a country that embraces and recognises that half of us were either born overseas or our parents were, and that the strength of our nation is our diversity, and that is actually an advantage, and that we are collectively stronger by virtue of our love and compassion for each other. So I just want to give a shout out in particular to Zara and Vashini who spoke earlier. My office has been trying to support them, and we've been writing letters to Giles, and my wonderful office manager Yasmin has been on the phone to the Minister's office hassling them. They're not very happy with her because she's on the phone to them all the time. And I'm so hopeful, Zara and Vashini, that we can get a good outcome for you and your family, but it shouldn't take a senator hassling the Minister's office to get a good outcome for people. Our laws should be decent, they should be welcoming, and they should be in accordance with fundamental human rights law. So we're with you. Please take this opportunity in the next week to write and telephone your local MP and Minister Giles and the Prime Minister and send that message that this bill must be dropped, that the Labor Party simply cannot proceed with this, or nobody is going to vote for them anymore. They've got to realise that racism won't win them votes, and that actually Australians are better than that. So thank you, and let's hope we can defeat this awful bill.